Tutu Zana is my boss.
The small boss.
The attendance link is in the chat. Please click on the attendance link. Thank you. Sorry, Tutu Zana.
Okay. I was given the task to give you a talk on academic writing, which I believe is one of the important skills that you need to acquire besides the research skills. Yeah. Because you have to remember it's like this. There are in many skills that you have research skills, what else? Knowledge in the content area, your content area, okay? You have no other way to express, to share your knowledge, yeah, or whatever that you have read, and you have no other way to present what you have collected, what you know, other than through writing. Correct? Okay, so if you think that writing is something that you do not need to learn, you do not need to acquire the basic fundamentals in academic writing, then you are wrong. Okay, and we also receive a lot of comments from the examiners, yeah, when they find it very hard to understand what exactly that the writer intends to, the writer in this sense are the PhD writers, yeah, the PhD candidate, what they are trying to convey to the examiners, okay, to the readers. Okay, when I say readers here, it can be the examiners, or it can be once later your thesis will be put in the library, or later when you want to publish your work, then you are writing for the readers. Okay, so let's learn today how to write academic writing. Let me share my slides. Okay. Right. So academic writing is about, it's not exactly now pen to paper. Now it's what? Pen to paper is very traditional. Now it's what? Any answers? We cannot hear you. Perhaps you need to unmute yourself first.
Yeah, now
Laptop?
it's
Sorry?
computer. Yeah.
Our laptop.
From your brain to your laptop. Correct? Then later you will print it out. It becomes your paper. All right. So you see here, reading what you have written, that's the hard part. This situation happens, if you read what you have read, if you read what you have written. Most of the times, the students would just write without reading again whatever that they have written. Okay, so all right. Okay, so first of all, what you need to know is what is academic writing. Okay, academic writing is different from any types of writing that you do every day. Academic writing is different than any writing that you do at your leisure time. Academic writing is not like writing to your friends. Yeah, academic writing is not what you type on the WhatsApp group. Okay, academic writing is actually planned and focused. Right, so you have to remember this: planned and focused. Therefore, by right, you need to plan, and you need to prepare the outline before you write. Perhaps you think that you can prepare the outline in your brain. But if you are a very experienced writer, then you could probably do that. Okay, but I doubt that all of us would be able to plan in our brain and start writing, and it becomes a wonderful writing. I don't believe so. because this writing for your thesis, you see, requires revision upon revision upon revision. So if you don't do enough revision to what you have written, then this is where the problem will happen. Okay. Next one. Academic writing is a very structured writing. Okay, you cannot simply think that academic writing is about just whatever that appears in your head. It is not. It is a very structured writing. Yeah, it should be coherent. Coherent means it has to be. It should reflect on one main particular idea. Okay, written in a logical order. Okay, and brings together related points and material. Okay, it also needs evidence. Academic writing, you're writing for your thesis, writing for your proposal, whether it's master's thesis or whether it's a PhD thesis, it has to be based on evidence. Can you tell me what do I mean by evidence here? One of the examples of evidence when you write. How do you support whatever that you have written?
Citation from our readings or
Yes.
some studies.
Yes, citation. Citation is actually the evidence. Okay, so therefore you need to have citations when you write your thesis, your proposal. We as examiners have come across a very long paragraph with no citation. That is not academic writing. Okay, formal in tone and style. It has to be formal. It cannot be informal. Okay, with tone and style. If you notice that if you read journals, which I'm very sure reading journals or reading academic book is part of your life now. What do you notice about the kind of language and style of the writing? It uses appropriate language and tenses. Tenses is something that, if you yourself do not have enough time for you to check your tenses, then you should send your paper or your thesis for proofreading. Okay, but by right, most of us are actually English teachers, okay, or have very good English proficiency level. Then by right, you should be able to proofread the tenses yourself, okay, and it has to be clear and concise. Okay. Okay. It must also be clear and concise. I'm going to talk about this in detail. Okay, clear and concise. Clear means clarity. You write clearly of the ideas. Write the ideas clearly. Okay, and concisely. Some of you sometimes write very long paragraph when in fact you are writing on the same thing. It's just too long with unnecessary or irrelevant information. So concise means it's going to be short. If you need to, because when you write academic writing, you put in the citation. The citations are enough to support whatever that you claim or write in your proposal or in your thesis or in your paper. Okay, it has to be analytical and precise. Analyticals here means it has the element of critical thinking. You do not simply report whatever that you have written. Okay, you need to start to synthesize the information. Read, okay, synthesize, and try to write in your thesis or in your master's thesis or dissertation in the paper analytically. It cannot be descriptive. Okay, it has to be analytical. It has to be a critical writing. You also need to put in your voice. Sometimes even chapter 1, chapter 3, and all the chapters that you have written, you only report whatever the other people say. This is where it is it's considered that your thesis is not a good piece of writing. As a PhD or a master's student, yeah, then you need to have your own voice when you write. Okay, so your voice could come in the summary or based on your understanding. Okay, you also must remember that when you write, you are writing for the readers. Okay, the audience. Okay, so you must convey what you have understood, okay, in your writing, and not just report whatever that you have read. Okay, so that is academic writing. Okay, it also has to be objective. Writing thesis, academic writing is not about writing your opinion, not about writing your views. You can write your opinion, you can write your views, however, it has to be based on evidence. It needs citation. If your claim is not being does not have any citation, okay, it means it can be a hearsay and is only your opinion, and that is not academic writing. So the evidence, the citations, and the explanation based on what you have write with the citations actually encompass of what a good academic writing is. Okay, you have to write cautiously. You cannot simply write whatever that comes to your mind. You cannot simply write whatever that you feel that you want to write. That is not academic writing. Academic writing is about conscious writing, because you are going to make a lot of claims. You are going to put in a lot of ideas, okay? And these ideas, if you do not write it cautiously, it can become a hearsay, it can become unsubstantiated point of view, and therefore cannot be accepted. Okay, so write cautiously. Sometimes we can see in your writing that you're very careless in your writing, because you simply say whatever that comes to your mind. That is not academic writing. Okay, and there will be a lot of questions, yeah, when we read your proposal and when we read your thesis. Okay, and it has to be logical. Whatever claims that you want to make, it has to be objective. Whatever you want to write, write cautiously. Okay, and it has also be logical. So clear and concise. You should avoid unnecessary detail and words with. Include one theme per paragraph. It may look a little simple or a little basic, but I believe that in any kind of writing, regardless whether it is a sophisticated writing or whether it is writing for leisure, whether it is about writing for your thesis, you know, you should plan and organize your ideas first. Okay, and when you explain on something, it has to be based on one theme or one idea per paragraph. Okay. Right, so being concise is also crucial. If you don't understand what concise means, you probably can check later the meaning of concise. Okay, use a few words as possible. For example, now, you use now instead of a longer wordier at the present time. You can use at the present time. What I am trying to say here is, yeah, some of the words or sentences or phrases that you use in your thesis, yeah, you can like cut it short. Okay, because sometimes, most of the time, you tend to repeat the same ideas again and again in several paragraphs, or sometimes in several sections in your writing. So this is where concise and precise means. Okay? Avoid repetition. Whatever that I am telling you now is to also guide you to be your own proofreader. okay, you need to proofread your work first before you send to your supervisor or before you send to the editor. Okay, so make sure you have to check all this, whether it is concise, whether you do not repeat similar ideas over and over again. You include only important words, avoid all the unnecessary details or irrelevant words. Okay, you also need to use direct and simple language. Okay. Now, sometimes it is a problem for any novice writers to differentiate or to draw the line between simple language and also academic writing. Okay, in academic writing, when we say simple language, it does not mean that you're writing like a high school students, okay, or undergraduate student. It doesn't mean simple language such as that. Okay, what we mean by simple language is language that is sophisticated enough, sophisticated but easy enough for us to understand. Okay, sometimes most of the is either it's too simple, it's too simple, it's too basic, that it doesn't reflect that the writer is actually a postgraduate student. Okay, that's simple. But at the same time, if you were to write and you too sophisticated to the extent that people don't understand, that is also violating the basic fundamentals of academic writing. Okay, so simple language here, sophisticated enough, okay, academic enough, with uh relevant academic words, yeah, with a simple structure for the reader to understand. Okay, well, if the idea is too abstract, then perhaps we should refer to some of the journals. You do read about the theory, yeah, books or chapters about theory. Sometimes the abstraction level is very high. It is quite, you need to read it over and over again for you to understand. But when you're writing your thesis, it should be simple enough for the reader or for the examiner to understand. Okay, so you have to avoid vague. When I say vague here, some words that you use, we always put question mark, because the word itself is just you understand, but not the reader, because you do not provide enough context for the examiner or for the reader to understand. Okay, and sometimes also complicated sentences. What do we mean by complicated sentences here is you write a very long sentence, yeah, long sentence with too many ideas that when we read it, it confuses us. It creates more confusion rather than trying to make us understand. Okay, because I think you are trying to put in many ideas as possible. You have to put in whatever that you have read. Okay, and you don't revise whatever that you have written. That is normally the case when this complicated or vague words or sentences happen. Okay, only use technical terms or jargon when necessary and explain them when used. For example, you want to use the word like a um I'm kind of lost of words now. Is there any particular word that maybe Dr. Halimi can help me out here? Terms or jargon? I can't think. Let's say in technology used in EFL classroom. I'm so sorry, I cannot think of a word at the moment. the technical terms. Yeah. Never mind. Perhaps if I remember, that we could come back to this. Okay. But the basic fundamental is try only use technical. You can use technical terms, but most of the time when the student write technical terms or jargon in that your particular area, okay, but you don't give extra explanation, yeah, you don't explain what does that jargon means, and that's when it will affect the clarity of your ideas. Okay, then suddenly the idea becomes vague and we don't quite understand what you are trying to say. Okay, and also try to avoid using lots of long words. I would say long sentences, actually, not long words, long sentences. Long sentences that have so many ideas. However, you also, when I say do not write long sentences, it doesn't mean that you should only write short sentences in all your writing. Because if you do that, then your writing becomes very immature, that it doesn't reflect you as a postgraduate student. So you need to have a good balance, yeah, between simple language and also languages or sentences that would reflect you as a mature uh, postgraduate students. Okay. Okay. Now we move on to analytical, precise, and logical. Okay. So our writing should provide an impartial and balanced view of the evidence. Impartial means you are fair in giving in writing the ideas or writing your views, okay, or your voice. All right. Um, you also have to remember that analytical here means, okay, if you want to be analytical, you have to be analytical and also critical readers of what you have read. If you are not critical readers, then you cannot write analytical writing. Okay, you cannot write analytically. Okay, so you need to compile a lot of ideas for different authors and try to make sense of what you have compiled, okay, and try to put in your own voice. In that way, you become impartial, you are being fair, and you give a very balanced view of the situation or any issue or any ideas that you want to write on. Okay, I also would like to remind you, do not ignore evidence. Evidence here means findings from past studies, yeah, that have different results, okay, or conclude differently from your own study, because these are going to, you need to pay attention to the different results, okay, because sometimes we want to prove that our work is the best. We want to prove that we are right. We only take in all the findings that agree with our belief, agree with our work, okay. If you do that, then you are actually being very biased, and it affects a little bit of integrity of you as a researcher. Okay, so please do not ignore findings that have a different result from yours. You will find, if you were to put it in, but this one you need to use your wisdom and your judgment, yeah, all right, so that it will not trap you. But if you use it, yeah, to prove something, then it would make you look like you are a very fair person, very objective in your thinking, and even it is reflected in your writing. So that is what exactly a good researcher or postgraduate students is all about. Okay. Next, make sure that any claims that you make supported by appropriate evidence that demonstrate how conclusions have been drawn. Okay. Again, it is all about putting in the citation. Okay, if you notice in any Scopus paper or Q1 or Q2 paper, even sometimes the citation is even longer than the sentence. Do you realize that or not? Okay, sometimes maybe the citation is as long as the sentence itself. So you do not need to worry to write very long explanations. Sometimes the evidence itself or the citation itself is enough, okay, to support whatever that you claim. But what we found in most of your writing, you write very long paragraph with only one and two citations. That is not academic writing. Okay, that is not how you write your thesis, that is not how you write your dissertation, that's not how you write your paper. Okay, so the citation, if there are enough citation to support your claim, that it will be a good academic paper already. Okay, express your ideas and processes in logical order. Make it easier for your reader by dividing your with clear headings. Okay, sometimes even though we do not um, teach all of our PG students the basic, because we believe that you come with some experience, you come with, an acceptable standard of knowledge. But sometimes we found that the way you organize your work is very disorganized, and that we wonder whether the students actually plan their writing in the first place. Okay, what we can conclude about whatever that you submit to us, the paper, the chapters here, or the whole thesis, is that it was done carelessly. So please, you do not want the examiner to have that kind of impression on you. Okay, we know that you are rushing for time, but it does not mean that rushing for time, you can submit careless work or unprepared thesis. Okay. Now, you should also be careful not to overstate or overclaim. This is also very common among the writers. You overstate or you overclaim something, that this is the best, that this is the most interesting, this is the most crucial, for example, then that is overclaim. Okay. So you need to be very careful when you use the word like proofs. This study proves that you have to be very careful in so that you don't overclaim. Okay, this study definitely prove, or there is really very strong claim that you make. Okay, instead show caution by using hedging words. Okay, there are a list of hedging words. If you Google, yeah, we call it hedges, is you need to be careful in how you write. Okay, something you are too eager to say that this is definitely or the best or the most. Okay, I would advise you not to use all these phrases. Okay, some useful hedging words, you need to downplay a little bit of your claim, by using like this suggests that, it is possible that some of the factors for this particular study, a possible explanation, rather than you straight away claim that this variable is the most significant variables. That is a very strong claim that you are giving to the reader. Yeah, okay. Or sometimes, usually, sometimes, or somewhat. Okay, these are some of the very small number of examples. You can Google it yourself. Yeah, find hedges or hedging words. You get a list of words that you, or not words, phrases that you can use in your writing. Okay. Now, formal language. A lot of people say that a significant, a considerable number of people believe that. Okay, this is all the hedging. Yeah, to reduce, to avoid you to overclaim. Okay, a significant or a considerable number of something. Okay, scientists or experts or scholars believe that. Okay, it is widely believed that, it is generally accepted that. So these are some of the samples of hedging. Okay, for you to use in your writing. Okay, you should try to avoid expressions that are too informal, okay, unsophisticated, yeah, vague, exaggerated, or subjective, as well as those that are generally unnecessary or incorrect. So if by now, I have a few more slides actually, but by now, if you get the idea of what I'm trying to say is, yeah, academic writing is a careful writing. Yeah, it's a cautious writing. So it is not about writing whatever that comes to your mind. It is not about writing whatever that you feel that it is correct. It's not. It is about objective, careful, cautious writing. Okay, so that everything becomes very how would I say it? Supported by good evidence, because if not, it will be a hearsay or just your assumptions or your opinion. I give you this is a sample, a very short sample for you to get the idea of what I was telling just now. Yeah, this study will adopt the most familiar model. Can somebody tell me what is wrong with the word the most familiar?
Overclaim.
Overclaim. Okay, which words that you can say overclaim?
The most familiar.
The most, even the word the most is actually an overclaiming. People can argue with you. Are you sure that it's the most? Sometimes you only read one model and you quickly claim it as the most. Okay, familiar. Maybe you, the writer, I think that this model is actually the most familiar to him or her, to the author. Okay, so avoid this. This study will adopt, you can straight away write, this study will adopt an inquiry-based learning model. Right, very straightforward. Okay. This model has adopted language problem. Yeah? This model was adopted by many scholars in successful studies. This is very, very wrong. It violates the basic fundamentals of what academic writing is, because you claim that many scholars actually have adopted this model, but you do not provide the evidence. So we normally put their reference or references or citation. And when you say many scholars, you cannot, by right, it cannot be only one. Logic, right? You just use your logic. Many people believe that Samsung is better than iPhone. You found that I'm the person who claimed that is using Samsung. And the family members in the family also use Samsung. Can you trust that claim? Cannot, right? It has to be based on evidence. Can you please give us some proper evidence when you claim that? Okay, the criteria and nature of IBL model total differs from traditional model of learning. Okay, this makes it the proper model. Then I start to highlight proper model. What does it mean by proper model? You mean other models are not proper? I don't think that what it means, okay? But what he or she is trying to put here is just their assumptions or their opinion that this model is actually proper. So number one, the word proper is not a good choice of words. Okay, it's not academic. You don't use proper. Okay, when you may, okay, first you do not provide any evidence, yeah, that this is the most used model. For example, no evidence. Okay, and then you started to claim that this is the proper model, which is highly questionable. Okay, so next, in addition, companies both learning and doing learning and practicing, this one totally wrong. The sentence is totally wrong. In addition, it companies both learning and doing learning and practicing. Now, the word it, all of you must, okay, from today, whoever who attended my session today, please be careful with the pronoun. And the pronoun normally being misused as it, this, that. You refer everything with it, you refer everything with this or that. But before you use it, before you use this, before you use that, you have to make sure that the audience understand what this, it, and that refer to. So I put it, what? It refers to what? To the model or the current investigation? To what? To the IBM model? To the, I don't know. So please be careful when you use it. Similar with you use this. It is not advisable for you to use this and stop short at that. You need to put this situation or this or the current investigation on something, that it makes it clearer. Okay. This model, known by the name of American educator and philosopher John Dewey, 1959 to 1993. Again, this model, we believe, because I think they're talking, he or she's talking about the inquiry-based learning model. Okay, but this model is too far away from the first sentence. I think it should be written like this. This study will adopt, inquiry-based learning, okay, developed or proposed by American educator. In fact, the word American is not necessary. This is what I meant by avoid unnecessary word or details. By an educator and philosopher John Dewey, 1959-1993. Okay, so you see how important it is for you to revise what you have written. Okay, Dewey was largely responsible for promoting learning by doing rather than merely learning and hands-on process. The word merely learning and hands-on process is not clear. What do you mean by learning, merely learning and hands-on process? It's not clear. Okay, so in fact, in this very short, how many sentences? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In the 7 sentences, there are already a lot of issues. Yeah, there are already a lot of issues. In fact, on these 7 sentences, you can write it, if you can shorten it to only 3 to 4 sentences. Okay, the main problem affecting paragraph of focus and development. Sometimes what we call it in Malay shop sendiri, ya. You write as you wish. Okay, you're very happy with what you have written. Very, very happy. Yeah, and then when suddenly people give you comments, you are so demotivated. Okay, most of the time when we read, there is lack of focus because you write without planning. It is as simple as that. If you write without planning, then your paragraph, your ideas will very, very, it will affect the focus of that particular paragraph or that particular sections, and eventually in that particular thesis altogether. Okay. A writer puts too many ideas in one paragraph. This is very, very common. Okay, so you need to revise your work before you submit. You cannot imagine the amount of revision that I and also maybe Dr. Harmi have done in order for us to submit our thesis. Okay, you need to do revision upon revision upon revision. Of course, you feel tired, but that is the process that you have to go through. Okay, J.K. Rowling, do you think, who is J.K. Rowling? Can anybody tell me?
Harry Potter.
Yeah, the author of Harry Potter. Do you think J.K. Rowling can write the storybook on Harry Potter in just one sitting? What do you think? I do not know how long it should take to produce one manuscript. Okay, but I think that, there will be a lot of revision and revision upon revision. Okay, ambiguous references. Okay, ambiguous words like this, his. Of course, you cannot use his because um, normally you write objectively. Okay, you use the author. Okay, the study. You don't use his. You don't refer his or her in your in your writing. In the first place, sometimes the Western name, even for the Chinese name, we do not know whether is we do not know the gender of the author. For us, Malay, we can know the gender. We can quickly know the gender, but for others, I think it's quite difficult. Okay, because you use family name, so we do not know whether it's she or he. Okay, so you use they. Sometimes we do not know whether they refer to the students or whether they refers to the teachers. You know what you write. You want to refer they to the students, but when you write, you as a writer, you know, but we as the reader, we do not know. That's why you have to make it clear when you use the word they or this or it. These are all the very common words that can confuse readers. Okay, many possible interpretations of it and this. Okay, and in some cases the word noun is used. You say this situation, this problem, this approach, but even this you use this approach, it can still cause confusion. Let's say in that particular paragraph you talk about many different types of approaches, so when you use this approach, it can also cause confusion. So when you use this approach, I would suggest you make it clear what approach. Okay. Mm. Do not write the way you speak. This is also very common. Do not expect your reader to know what you mean. You see, you remember, perhaps you put it somewhere on the wall, write for readers, not write for myself. Because most of the time when we read, we know that you are writing for yourself. You're not writing for the reader, writing for the audience. You know everything. You seem to read like so many journal articles. You have all the knowledge here in your head, but you must also be able to know how to convey whatever that you want to say clearly. Therefore, you cannot assume that the reader understands what you wanted to say. You have to make it clear to the reader. Most of the time, when you write, yeah, when you write, you write only for you to understand. That is very wrong. So when we read, we don't understand what you're trying to say. And you need to explain. People, and then you start to explain. your thesis, your paper, your master's thesis should speak on its own. Okay, when you submit your work, you submit your work. You're not going to be there beside the examiners to explain, right? So you must make sure that whatever that you have written is clear enough, for the examiners to understand. So that is why you cannot write for yourself. You have to write for the reader. Sometimes you write, you do not provide interpretation. You write, this person report this person report this, and this person report this. That's it. Okay? And that's it. Okay? Okay? So use complete sentences. This one you must check. Sometimes your sentence hanging. Okay, do not use slang. This one is a bit uncommon. We don't usually find that students use slang, but I just point it out to you anyway. Yep, avoid using any slang, and do not write in fragments. Okay, idea. Do not write in fragments. Use complete sentences. Yeah, in fact, all of these ideas, you can avoid this if you make the effort to revise your writing. If you do not make the effort to revise your writing, then you tend to make all these mistakes over and over again, and it will prolong your submission. You do not want to prolong your submissions, right? You want to submit your work as soon as possible, but you do not want to make your style of writing seems to be the factor, to hinder you from submitting your work in time. Okay, so this is just a basic structure of how you should. All of you, perhaps most of you, are English teachers. So you should know the basic structure, what you should include in introduction. We assume that our students know, but somehow when we read, all the ideas goes haywire. Okay, it's all over the place, right? So for the introduction, what we mean by introduction, introduce the subject. Okay, and then you see in every in one section of your thesis, for example, take for example introduction. Okay, take for example a background of your study. Okay, so under background, section 1.1, background of your study. So you have maybe like, I don't know, 5 to 7 paragraphs. Okay, so these 5 to 7 paragraph by right, it should have this structure: introduction, body, and conclusion in all sections. In all sections. Okay, how it does not matter how many paragraphs that you have. Perhaps in your literature review, or perhaps in the theoretical framework, you have more. You have like 12 to 15 paragraphs. Okay, but this is the basic structure. You have the introduction, then you have the body, and finally, before you end that section, conclude. You cannot left it hanging. Okay, cannot left it hanging. So by right, when that's in that structure, you normally will design or organize your writing from general to more specific. Introductions, you start off with a very general statement, or general ideas, and suddenly, slowly, you narrow it down to a specific ideas related to that particular section. So if we're talking about the background of the study, then you should only focus on the background of the study, introducing first, very general. Perhaps we want to talk about language learning in general, but do not write too long on general ideas. Okay, then that's why your paragraph would drag more longer and longer. Okay, so try to avoid that as well. But the basic structure is you have the introduction, you have the body of paragraph, and finally, before you end any section, you must conclude. Okay, all right. So as what I said here, gradually become more broad and general. That is for the conclusion. Okay, right. The introduction outlines the main direction the writing will take and gives any necessary background information and context. That is the function of the introduction. Okay, the main body for each point is presented, explored, and developed. You must develop the ideas. One of the most common problems that any writers do is actually they don't develop the ideas. And sometimes they introduce one idea in one sentence and they stop short there. And they start new ideas. That is very wrong. Then whatever the ideas is not fully developed, you must develop the ideas. Sometimes you need to give more explanations. Sometimes you need to give more examples, followed by citations. Okay, these points must be set out in a logical order to make it easier for the reader to follow and understand. So this is actually the task of a writer. Okay, do not write, and and ask the reader to make sense of what you write. You have to make sense of what you want to write to us. Okay, the conclusion brings together the main points. What is the role of a conclusion? Is to conclude. When you conclude, you must conclude whatever that you have written. Sometimes you don't conclude at all. And when you conclude, you write something else, not on what that you have written. Okay? So in the conclusion, it brings together the main points and will highlight the key message or argument that you want the reader to take away. What is it that you want to highlight to the reader and want the reader to understand? So now I do hope that you understand that it is the job of the writer to do all these things for the reader. It is very wrong if you ask the reader to make sense and to understand. I think this is what he or she is trying to say. But how can you let the reader to assume what you want to say? You have to make it clear to us, right? Okay. So these are the main important points that you have to remember when you want to write, your thesis. So you must do an outline of your writing. This is a must. This is a draft. You must draft. You must have a draft of what you want to write. You cannot simply sit down and straight away write without planning of what you want to write. And by write, when you write, you must have what is it, the main idea, and how you are going, what are the supporting points that you want to include, what are the citation that you are going to put in, and how you're going to develop them. You must have all this ready before you start writing. Okay, then you start writing. Right, and you can add and revise as you go. Okay, again, structure your writing, arrange your points in a logical order. Okay, when you start writing, you should have a clear idea of what you want to say. The problem is when you want to start writing, but you do not know exactly what you want to write. And you start saying that I do not know what to put in. You said that you are suffering from not mental block, writer's block. I don't believe in that term. You do not know what to write because you do not have enough reading. You don't have the content of what you want to write. So you do not know what to write. If you already know, have the knowledge of what you want to write, I'm very sure you can write. So the term of writer's block is a term that I don't believe in if people say that. Okay? If you do not know what to write, that means you have not done enough reading. That's why. So the first stage before you can write, to put in good ideas, yeah, you must have sufficient knowledge. Okay? Create a list of your main points and think about what the reader needs to know and in what order they will need to know it. Write for the reader, not write for yourself. Please tell this to yourself over and over and over again. Keep asking yourself, when you read again what you have written, do people understand what I'm trying to say? Is this clear? I think I should do this. You should be asking that. You should be doing that work, yeah, not your supervisor. Don't ever think that, oh, I just admit my supervisor has to check my work. Yes, we check your work, we check the content. We check the content. We don't do the proofreading. You have to do the proofreading. And what I want to talk about proofreading is, okay, there are many complaints that we get. The students say that they send to the proofreader, and yet your work is still not up to the standard. You know why? Because before you send your work to the proofreader, you yourself have to proofread your work. You cannot be sending the draft of your whatever that you have written to the proofreader. That is wrong. Okay? So again, how to develop your paragraph, parts of the paragraph. You have the topic sentence, you have the supporting sentences, and you have the concluding sentences. The topic sentence is related to what I mentioned earlier about the introduction, the body, or the supporting sentences, supporting ideas. Your supporting sentences here could also mean supporting ideas. And finally, your concluding sentence. You must conclude whatever that you have written in one particular section. That would make a good writing, a good academic writing with good formal language here, with tone, academic tone. You don't use the tone of the language or simple language that how you use the language in your everyday life. It's totally different. Yeah, written language is very different than spoken language. That is the basic fundamental that I think most of you understand. Therefore, you cannot write like how you speak. It's wrong. Okay, academic writing has to be formal, very clear, very structured. Okay, right. What does topic sentence include? Okay, topic sentence expresses the main idea of that paragraph. Okay, or it tells what the paragraph is all about. Okay, in writing your thesis, this could be helped by the main idea of that particular section is normally being helped by the title of that section. Okay. However, in the first paragraph, after you put in the title of the section, is an introduction of what you want to write. Okay. So include it in the topic sentence. Okay. It is almost always the first sentence. It is usually the most general sentence in the paragraph. This is very important in your chapter 2. Okay, because your chapter 2 consists of so many different sections, yeah, so many sections and so many ideas that you covers based on the variables or the themes or the construct of your study, right? So each section it has to have, and sometimes if you want to talk about motivation, okay, so let's say for this section you want to talk about the strategies on motivation. So you have to make it clear in the topic sentence. Then in another section, you probably want to talk about the factors that contribute to the to motivation. So you make it clear in the topic sentence. There are many different factors, cited by scholars that affect the students' motivation when learning English language or when learning second language. Okay, so there is a topic sentence. So we know that you're talking about the factors that contribute to affecting the students' motivation. Okay, so the tip is start with something simple and straightforward and then make it more sophisticated. Of course, all this requires practice. Okay, you can't be, but I believe that for the postgraduate student, you have produced so many written words, but this is not something new to you. So that's why I say it requires many experience in writing, for you to understand the concept. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. There is a common pattern of buying behavior consumers are practicing today. So that is the topic sentence. And we know when we read the first sentence, the rest of the sentences or the ideas are going to talk about the pattern of buying behavior consumers. So they are duplicating their purchases. Duplication of purchases is a situation when a brand's customers are being shared with another brand within a period of time, usually in a year. It is when some percentage of buyers of one brand also purchase another brand within the same product category. And you give the citation. Okay, what I want to point out here is the topic sentence, the one that I highlighted in orange. That is the topic sentence. So you introduce your paragraph so that we, the reader, understand that the following of the ideas want to talk about the pattern of buying behavior. This topic sentence also, if you have it, then it will set as a guide for you to stick to the idea rather than you talk about something else, rather than you divert your attention to other ideas. Okay, so that is the function of this topic sentence. Right, so the common complaint by supervisors, students in general tend to describe rather than analyze in their writing. If you simply describe, then it is not a postgraduate writing. Okay, it is not enough for you to simply outline of what you have read, or it is not enough for you to simply describe of what you have read. It's that reporting back of what you have read. Okay, what you need to do is you need to evaluate the ideas, compare them with those of other writers, and examine the issues or perspective critically. Okay, so this is where you need to do the literature metrics. If you don't do this, then you tend to describe. You tend to report. Like Zuhana 2020 states that, Harmi 2019 mentioned that this. Okay, so that is just a description of what you write, and that is not how postgraduate students should do. Okay, you need to evaluate, synthesize the information that you have read. Okay, that means you have to not only evaluate, but you need to also give your interpretation of what you have read. Okay, this is a sample of a very descriptive writing in literature review, which is not academic. Gandhi 2015, based on his work in how Islam is portrayed, blah 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 blah. So that particular paragraph talks about this study, Gandhi study. Okay, And then in another sentence, I break it, yeah, I break it, but actually it appears in one long paragraph, okay? Then Blake et al. 2015 conducted research on media portrayal of Muslim in British newspaper, blah, 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 blah. And then you know that this particular paragraph also is the report of Blake et al. Study in 2015. Then after that, we have Asim or Akim 2016. In his study, raised his doubt on the use of intertextuality in the discourse. Blah, 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 blah. Now, okay. So the next question is, so what? Do you expect the reader to synthesize the results on their own? Whose job to synthesize the information? The reader or the author? The writer, not the reader. So if you want to write, yeah, you need to synthesize the information, put it clear in the writing. You have to interpret it. You have to make it clear what it means by these three studies, rather than simply describing it like 1, 2, 3, and leave it as it is with no conclusion, no interpretation whatsoever. Okay? This is very poor writing, poor academic writing. So now we talk about synthesis. Synthesis is one thing that you need to do. Now you do this synthesis is even before you start writing. Okay, synthesis is actually it starts during your reading stage. Okay, so you cannot write, you cannot produce good writing if you don't do good reading in the first place. So that's why reading and writing very related to each other. Okay, so let's now talk about synthesis. This is where most of the students really weak in this area, in synthesis, because you don't synthesize. You simply describe like the examples that I showed in the previous slide. Okay, so when you write, you cannot simply, you cannot only describe, you need to synthesize. Okay, academic writing is about synthesizing ideas from various sources. So you have read like 20 journals, for example. So it's not correct if you just report study 1, study 2, study 3 until study 20. But you have to synthesize what do all these studies mean. Okay, so I give you examples of what synthesis is. Despite this diversity of focus, there is a growing convergence on the idea that data literacy is more than simply learning a set of technical skills, such as how to read bar graphs. Yeah, so you have how many citations there? 1, 2. Okay, and then work with maps, read 2 citations, or use data for prediction, another citation. This is what synthesis is. This is how you should write. But what normally happens in your writing is, okay, most of the time student will write Albert et al. 2017 states that this is synthesis. Barron also mentioned that this is this. Okay. Students also were found to, other studies found that data literacy is also about working with maps. Full stop, with citation. Data for prediction is another skill. So that is how you normally write. But you must learn how to combine all these ideas, okay? How to combine these ideas so that it becomes like a synthesis. This is just one sentence. But how many ideas are there in one sentence? Can you identify for me? Can you extract the three, Yanti?
How to read. That is literacy is more than simply learning a set of technical skills. So that the other three ideas are how to read bar graphs,
Other
with maps,
examples.
and or use data for predictions.
Okay. So in one sentence, you have like three. First, the main idea, the topic sentence is about data literacy is more than a set of technical skills. And then you provide the supporting evidence, yeah? Supporting evidence by giving the citation. This is how you synthesize. Okay, this is a simple example, yeah, because the primary aim of my talk today is make you to first understand what synthesis is. But of course, if you want to know more and look at some of the examples, you can always refer to all the journals that you have compiled. You can see the synthesis in each of the journals, so that you can find it on your own actually. Okay, so what is the correct thinking? Write based on your understanding, not just report on what you have read. Okay? The wrong thinking is when you report what other authors say or claim. That is wrong. Okay? That the report should be in your literature metrics. Okay? So when you want to transfer to your own reading, in your own writing, okay, you must synthesize the information and write it based on your understanding. Because if you just report, then there is a tendency, there is a strong assumption as that you don't actually understand. It's like copy paste. You just copy whatever that you write and paste it in your work. But you actually need to write the interpretation of what you have written to the reader. Okay, this is what academic writing is all about. All right, so you need to take a look at whatever chapters or writing that you have done and see whether your writing fits into the criteria or basic criteria of what academic writing is all about. Okay, again, you need to revise, edit, and proofread your work. Again, I would like to remind you, proofread your work first before you send it to proofreader. Right? Don't ever submit your work without you revising or without you proofreading it first. Because there are also some claims of other students that the proofreader seems to wreck your piece of writing. Okay, of course, because you have given them the piece of writing for them to work on, and they work on your writing based on their understanding. Okay, so please revise and revise before you submit to your supervisor. Okay, so again, what I would like to recap, to repeat what I have mentioned earlier. If you want to be a good writer, you also must be a good reader. Yeah, so everything starts with your reading. Yeah, so there is no such thing as writer's block. Yeah, right. If you ever feel that you do not know what to write, is simply because you do not have enough information for you to put in your writing. It is as simple as that. Okay? So writing problems, the most common one, we don't know what to write because you don't have enough reading. And you does not read effectively, or you do not read effectively. Okay, or students do not read effectively. What is the current issue on the topic or the title? Okay, so how much knowledge or the funds of knowledge or what is already known about the topic, then only you can start writing. Okay, so you do not know how to synthesize, then do literature metrics. If you don't do literature metric, you wouldn't know how to synthesize, and you cannot synthesize. You can do it, but it will take like a longer way to do it. Okay, we are telling you the shorter way for you to do, but of course, before you can synthesize, there is a hard work behind it. Reading and understanding, what you have read. Okay, that is the hard work that you need to do first. But of course, in order for you to help you, of course, you must do the hard work first. Right? So writing is thinking. To write well is to think clearly. That's why it is very hard. Most of the students claim that very difficult to write. Yes, I agree. And it is indeed true. Okay, because it requires thinking. If you simply cut and paste, yeah, reporting what other people say, then it is easy. But you don't include the thinking part of it. Yeah, because you don't evaluate and you don't synthesize the information. Okay. So therefore you do not write well. So if you want to write well, it involves a little bit of thinking where you have to evaluate, you have to synthesize the information, and you have to put in your own ideas to it. So that is why it is very hard. Okay. It is not very hard because you are experiencing writer's block all the time. It's not. Okay. So you can read this on your own. So hi Cecilia, how's the writing going? Slow. I'm finding it hard to make progress. You can relate to this, right? Okay. But that's okay. They say writing is 1%, inspiration 9. Writing is 1% inspiration, 99% procrastination. I think it's 99% perspiration. Yeah, because you sweat from all the procrastination. So basically, I believe that when it comes to academic writing, I know that it's not easy. Dr. Harmi, and most of us who have already graduated, we understand when you say it's not easy. It is indeed not easy, but there are many classes, many seminars, many workshops that perhaps not only UGM, but also other learning institutions that give talk on academic writing. So I think you've been helped in many ways. How it's just a matter of how you want to manage your time, manage your writing, manage your writing in a way that you should draft it first, organize your ideas first here, then only you can start writing. Okay, so with that I end my presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Zuhana. A very detailed and informative